What's up, everybody? Welcome to a slimmed down version of the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. I'm your host, as always, Benungus Greavy, alongside my co-host Cameron Parker. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. It is a very slimmed down version. And actually, this is I was going to say, this has to be probably one of the first times you and I have actually done a show as far as like
and we can still call this the younger guys show because we're the same age.
Exactly.
I don't know why you keep saying the younger one when I'm not here. Listen, we're the same age.
It's about spreading false info and seeing if people could buy it.
Yes, we can do that. Now you'll notice that Glenn is not here. Glenn is too busy choking down some lozenges right now to get his throat all nice and better. And Gage just smoked too much weed and wasn't able to make the show today. So what we did instead was we got rid of one old guy and we added another old guy. And
Chargers fan too.
And to be fair, like this guy.
Wait a minute. I just come in and now I'm dedicated as a Charger fan.
Yeah,
Cam.
It's on record.
It's right there. And to add to that record, hey, the Broncos and Panthers just came on NFL Network. Just pointing that out. While Glenn is old, Bill is older than Egypt, so he should be able to give us some pretty great insight as to everything.
He was there in the Moses years, with the parting of the Red Sea.
No, but
I haven't had enough. If you have the munchies, you've had enough.
As thin as I am, I probably was the what do they call it? The staff that Moses put up. That's probably what it was.
All right, so Bill, do you have any idea of what's been going on at all over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, on my show, yeah. I've had many different topics, but what are you referring to?
Well, we're going to go ahead and start off with the biggest news because there's obviously not that big of news, but J.K. Dobbins has officially been signed to the Denver Broncos.
I mentioned that Friday.
Shut up, Bill. 1-year contract worth $5.75 million with the potential for more in incentives. No, it's $575.
$5?
Shut up. It's $575 with incentives, right?
Yeah. So like it's
2.75, and then the incentives could bring it to 5.25.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's in essence a rather starts out as a cheap deal, but it's pretty big in the sense of like a $5 million deal. I mean, he's like the most expensive running back that they'll have on the roster. So he is certainly not coming here to.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not going to be coming here to be challenging for RB3.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Do you like this signing? I really do. I know he's had injuries. He had a Achilles tear. He missed a lot of games, sparingly with the Chargers and whatnot. But I think
of course Bill knows that.
Do my research, Mike. Thank you. But seriously, I mean, yes, he's had injuries, but a lot of players have injuries and they come back from it. Is this a good signing? Do you think it will push the running back room, or do you think it is a chance for him to get back on the field and be productive?
This is the first thing I want to say. I was all in on Nick Chubb, and the reason why I was all in on Nick Chubb is because in the past, the Broncos have not been good at keeping injury-riddled players on the field. Like, for whatever reason it is, players were getting injured at a higher rate than we'd normally seen. And so in the past, I did not want the Broncos to sign anybody that had any sort of injury history. But the Broncos have the best medical staff in the NFL. So if there was ever a time to take a flyer on an injured running back or an often injured running back, it would be now. So I am fine with the J.K. Dobbins signing because I think we can keep him healthy.
Yeah, and actually it's been the theme the entire offseason, right? So like if it hits for all these guys that they've signed, you're talking about probably one of the better off seasons the Broncos have had since the Manning years. Like it is a low risk, high reward signing. And And frankly, this will be the to continue on, with the Chubb idea. That's one of the reasons why Dobbins was such a attractive option, because he was 26 years old and he did battle injuries, but you put him in the best possible situation for himself to be healthy, and also the room. And therein lies why this is such a good signing and the fit for Sean Payton, because Sean is a running back committee. Like, he is a 2-3 running back committee type of coach. So you put Dobbins in a situation like that, which is going to be good for the room, but also it's going to be good for his health, because you're going to be staggering his carries along. And so you're going to have guys like RJ Harvey, maybe Audric Estime, Angelina McLaughlin, and maybe you sprinkle in some Blake Watson, here and there. Like, ideally, the room is set up so perfectly for Dobbins and everybody else to have such a really good year.
Well, what I like about this signing is the fact that, and I said that on Friday, if you take a player and put him into a different situation, different environment, different thought process, different mentality, different head coach, and works to his best situation, I don't see Sean Payton putting him in a bad situation. I don't see it like past head coaches. So I think that this works out well. Whether he's the number 2, number 3, number 4, whatever it is, he's going to be used in the best situation under Sean Payton's offensive scheme, and I think it worked. I was all in favor on Friday. I was shocked that he walked away without signing on Friday, but I'm glad he's in camp. I'm glad he's there.
Yeah, I think we had an inkling, but I think Mike and I were actually talking about it before the show, and we think that the Chubb thing, him signing with the Texans, probably sparked it a little bit for him to sign, with the Broncos. But Big E, you're not wrong. I mean, it's still a fact. He is definitely injury prone, but still, you're putting him in the best possible situation for health staff. For Dobbins, and to mention what you talked about, Bill. This is the first time. This is going to be the first time in his career where he will not have a Harbaugh coaching in his ear. Like, so he may have the same style of coaching, but this will be
college as well.
No, he can't.
No, in the NFL.
NFL. Sorry,
he came from the Ravens to the Chargers.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So,
that's right. I'm sorry.
So this will be the first time in his NFL career where he has not had a Harbaugh as coach. I think it's
a good thing.
I think it's the same type of style in terms of stern type of, maybe a physical in the sense of they're just trying to get you right every single day and making sure that the mental side of things is always great, right? So like that, it's going to be a good thing for Dobbins and getting that body right, which I think clearly, again, not to continue the theme, but the biggest winner of all of this in this offseason might not just be a player. It's the fact that they just have put in all their chips in, and they believe Bo Lowry.
Yeah, and you can see that by who they've signed in the offseason. I mean, we're talking about J.K. Dobbins, but you also have to remember Huafunga, he was injured. Greenlaw was injured. Like a lot of the players
is injured.
Evan Ingram was injured. A lot of the players we brought in were injured players. And there's obviously a belief in the medical staff that we were able to get them healthy and keep them healthy. So if we can keep all those players healthy, man, I'm talking Super Bowl.
Oh, come on, man. You're really stretching it now, Mike.
I have us going 13-4. Sounds like Super Bowl to me. But with the J.K. Dobbins signing, we do have to talk about what that potentially means for other running backs in the room. Now, I've always been under the belief through research and talking to people and trying to figure out what's going on is that Harvey's RB1, Estime was 2.
Going in.
And then you had McLaughlin at 3. Now, I believe in Estime. I think he can get better, and I believe that there's that same feeling in the building. However, if there is still a fumbling problem, then the Dobbins signing is less to do with McLaughlin and more to do with Bidet and Estime.
Yeah. What do you say, Bill?
You know, I look at it this way. I mean, it's a very crowded room, no doubt about it. But you're right. They have to look at this. I don't want statistically, or how the players play. If there's fumbling issues, if there's catching issues, if they're blocking issues, if there's not seeing the gaps, they have to look at this and open with an open mind. I mean, they may like these players. They may think that and feel that they're going to mature down the road, but can they afford to keep 2 or 3 players on the practice squad, or do they have to release one of these guys so that Dobbins moves into that number 3 spot?
Yeah. And I think that it's going to be really interesting because I've always been under the impression, like I felt like it was a bit of a Jaleel McLaughlin, like putting him on notice a little bit. But you do kind of read a little bit of some of the stats and some of the things that really back up with J.K. Dobbins. It would tend to kind of suggest that, this might be a bit of an estimate thing, because because of the fact that it's middle of the pack yards after contact, broken tackles, that's a big thing to estimate coming into the NFL, right? And we didn't get a chance to see that just yet, and obviously Estime was in the doghouse and he was inactive for the playoff game. But like I still think there's room for growth for Estime, and I think that it goes both ways on this, because I think that there's a good way to look at it and a bad way to look at it. Dobbins probably in the room does affect Estime, right? Because there's a chance that he could be off the roster. But I think in the long run of Estime's development, whether it's with the Broncos or whether it's with another team, just simply having Dobbins on this team, I think will help Estime and his development to be further along for something that he can be, if you will, for this team. And I think I think that maybe the Broncos maybe had a certain idea for what they wanted to have happen with Javonte Williams last year, right? Because like we have to remember they had Javonte Williams and Audric Estime, right? 2 somewhat of the similar style backs. So maybe they don't necessarily view it as, okay, this player is stylistically the same as this running back. It's just 100% simply let's have the best room available, which is I think that's everything that a coach should be looking for, is let's have the best room available. And I think that if you're looking at it, maybe the best available room that you're going to have to you might actually be RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Audric Estime, and then possibly Jaleel McLaughlin. I think if you're kind of reading between the lines of today's practice, and granted it was only day 1 of minicamp, Blake Watson was not there. And I don't know if that was injury. I don't know if, what's going on. But Blake Watson not being at practice is not necessarily ideal. And if you're reading a little bit between the lines of position, not there at practice, them signing a running back would kind of tend to maybe say that maybe Blake Watson's the guy on the way out.
Let me ask you, Cam. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to say, obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but I do think they carry all of them into training camp, and then they'll cut down the running backs in training camp. So I think we're going to have RJ, JK. Man, that's going to be hard.
RJKK.
Just say RJK.
RJK. Yeah. And then Estime. RJ. RJK.
You need a printed roster.
Right, RJK, May, Bidet. Good Lord.
Wow.
Watson.
Bidet. Good gosh.
Who's the other one? Oh, McLaughlin. Jaleel's the only one that sounds right.
Oh, my gosh. All right, let me ask you guys this.
Carry them into training camp, and I do think that at some point it's going to come down. At this point, I personally believe that Estime has a higher floor than Jaleel has ceiling.
Yeah.
That's just me. But that doesn't mean that the coaching staff doesn't see it different, and they're going to go with Jaleel. I do think that a RJ, JK,
And Estime.
and McLaughlin backfield is also interesting.
Yeah.
My only problem with that is that RJ is big as far as like mass wise, but size wise, like height and like build, he's not like an Estime. He's not a Javante. He's not like a Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a bigger running back that could just blow through people to get to the hole. And that I think that if we didn't have Estime on the team, he would either need to go to practice squad and bring him up when we need him, or find another guy that's going to fit that role.
Yeah, and you know, Jaleel has I think it's safe to say Jaleel has a role in the running back room. The problem is that when you kind of factor in Blake Watson of that, he's kind of like that same back a little bit, except he's got more wide receiver experience and he can, you know, add a little bit more to the room. My problem with Jaleel, and granted, we haven't necessarily seen it in games.
Yeah.
But my problem with Jaleel is I want to see a little bit more special teams, because say they do run with 4. And I know that you mentioned in the group chat with us, Mike, you do have the feeling that they carry 4. I have the feeling that they carry 4. So if they do carry 4, then one of the 4 has to be a strong contributor on special teams. And I don't think we actually have seen that, at least in games, for Jaleel. If he's going to be able to factor in that way, you might be a bit of an explosive return man for like Jaleel, and you can kind of factor in some of those snaps a little bit and, you know, and stuff, you know, that way. But I do think that at least on paper, the trio of Estime and RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins is actually way better.
Just say their first names.
RJ, JK, and Audrey.
Estime.
Yeah. But like, you know, but that is so much better in like on paper. And I don't want to get too carried away here. But there's at least an example that is down there in Detroit. If we get a very, very, very good version of JK and he's healthy, there is a chance, and it's a high ceiling, but there is a chance that this running back room, the duo of RJK, could rival the David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs combination. But that is a big, massive if. That is a big, massive if.
And one thing I want to add before we get to Bill. One more thing before we get to Bill. You also have to remember that it's Audric Estime's second season as a third-round pick. Like, it's not going to be a quick, okay, you're done, get out, we don't want you anymore. They're going to give him the opportunity to show that he can hold on to the ball, he can run the ball, he can find the hole, he can read defenses. So it's not we signed a J.K. Dobbins, so we don't need him anymore. No. He's still a third-round pick. They're going to give him some leeway.
21 years old.
Right. And not that I'm against Jaleel McLaughlin, but he was an undrafted guy. And if you read anything into the draft, they're going to keep a third-round pick over an undrafted guy if they feel like they're on the same level.
Let me ask you this, and granted, I can't have credit for this because I was listening to Orange and Blue today with Cecil Lammy and Andrew Mason, and they had this topic, and it is quite interesting. What would you rather have? Like, when you think of the most ideal room, what would you rather have? And I'll just pitch this type of scenario. Like, say you do have 4 backs, but one of them was a player that you poached from another team that you brought forth on your 53-man roster who might end up being inactive, you know, whenever, and so on and so forth. Like, for instance, say that player is Devin Neal. So say Devin Neal doesn't make it on the Saints right now. What would you rather have? Would you rather have RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Audric Estime, and Devin Neal? or R.J. Harvey, Audric Estime, J.K. Dobbins, and Jaleel McLaughlin.
With 4, are you talking the 4 or 3?
The 4.
RJ, Estime, JK, Jaleel.
Neal's tempting. And I think that's the thing is like we are talking about this on June 10th, right?
Yes.
So like and preseason is still upcoming and there's going to be some games. So
but this is all to talk about for like 6 weeks. They're done.
But like it is a very interesting conversation to have though, because like in the sense because like this was and the only reason why I bring it up is because like this was such a deep, and I mean deep, running back class, right? And that's the only way that I say this. So I don't know. It would be really appealing if you were to bring in a Devin Neal to maybe compete with those guys of Blake Watson and Jaleel and stuff like that.
All right, Bill, shake out those old man cobwebs and see if you can remember your question.
Yes. JK and
yeah, he's got to think about it too.
No, yeah, I was gonna say it's crazy. JKL, whatever. JKD, Dobbins, whatever. Anyways, yeah, go ahead, guys. You guys threw me off course. Anyways, would you rather?
You should know that name by now, sir.
You walked into that one.
I know.
Just call him by their last name, then it's not as bad.
Of McLaughlin or who's the other one? McLaughlin. Who's the other one you mentioned on the bubble? Not on a bubble, but Estime. McLaughlin or Estime? Would you? Which one, or either one of those three? Which one would you want to see gone, and have J.K. Dobbins in that spot? And would J.K. Dobbins be number 2 or number 3 running back?
Oh, he is number 1.
Dobbins.
Whoa!
Dobbins is 1.
Over Harvey?
It's a 1A 1B situation.
Wow.
It's not.
See, I don't think so. And again, like I don't know how they're going to break down who's starting where, but my assumption is that R.J. Harvey's going to be the main ball carrier, and then you're going to have J.K. Dobbins in more of that Darren Sproles type. Like not exactly, but he's going to be more of your screens, more of your jet sweeps, more of your.
I don't know about jet sweeps.
I guess my question.
Saying, I think instead of J.K. being the main ball carrier, he's going to be kind of your Swiss Army knife from the backfield.
I was going to say my whole main question was this: who do you send to the practice squad, and who do you release if it's Estime, McLaughlin, or Bidet? I mean, which one?
I think if you're looking at the trends and the way things have gone, I think the early trend is Blake Watson right now, just because he wasn't at practice. Wow. But I think that the trio of players you look strictly at, as far as that are on the bubble, it is Estime, McLaughlin, and Watson probably.
Okay, so Watson. Okay, let's put Watson out of the picture. Estime and McLaughlin. Did you not like them last year? And you want to see them you don't like them, Mike?
Frankly, we didn't see Estime enough.
They didn't do enough last year is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't like them. And that's my thing, right? I don't have a problem with Jaleel McLaughlin, but I still think that Estime's floor is higher than McLaughlin's ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like what we saw that's my fear, right? Is that McLaughlin has already shown us his best, and we're not going to get anything better.
Yeah,
that's what scares me.
Yeah, and I think that's the not to trigger Gage, but that's the Philip Lindsay syndrome a little bit, because like Philip hit his ceiling, but it was just how could we consistently get that? And he wasn't much of a huge threat in the passing game. He wasn't much of a he's not much of a threat on special teams. Maybe he can get there, but it's like I just think for Estime, ideally if you compare it to anyone, Estime is a Dobbins. Really. I mean, Estime is a Dobbins. Ideally, you want a running back that is really good after yards after contact and broken tackles. Like that is Estime, or should be Estime. That is that is J.K. Dobbins. Like that is ideal in terms of, yards after contact and everything and broken tackles. Like that is ideal. But I think that when you do talk about, I think just as far as like the running back situation, I think ideally the perfect room of 1 and 2 is everything that Mike described. But to a different layer of it, I think if you can have J.K. Dobbins play a much more advanced and high ceiling, high floor version of what we had with Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams, this will be a much better shaped room with touches, carries, whatever, because RJ Harvey and some of those players are in the room. So if you factor in the idea that Dobbins is a really good pass protector, which is something that they don't have. The Broncos do not have a good pass protector.
RJ equals Bush. I don't see that.
I don't see Bush, but I do see a comparison that has been quite favorable. That has been, I should say, as far as a comparison, that is Bucky Irving, and the one that I can't get out of my head as far as how patient he is and the vision is Le'Veon Bell. I can't get that one either out of my head. So, but those are the two that are just always ringing in my head.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that?
I think we cooked.
All right. So we had OTAs last week. We had minicamp starting today, and minicamp is today and tomorrow and
3
Thursday?
days. Yeah, it's 3 days.
Today,
Yeah.
tomorrow, Thursday? Okay. Obviously, there wasn't, and just like NFL players, like I'm not a fan of 7-on-7 drills. I don't think they accomplish anything. You can't take anything from them. Like you're in shorts and a t-shirt and you're playing 7-on-7. It doesn't really work. But is there anything that came out of OTAs and or minicamp practice today to be positive about, to be negative about, anything that we weren't expecting?
I think that once we've said it 1,000 times before, once you enter this kind of area and even into training camp, it's just kind of like the same old regurgitated topics and things that you continue to hear. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if you are hearing things and they are the same thing from where they were at OTAs, rookie minicamp, and then now in minicamp, mandatory minicamp, that might be something you want to file away. And, when you think about a couple of the rookies, like Savion Jones, Q Robinson, even Pat Bryant, and even RJ Harvey, the elephant in the room there, like, those are huge things to file away as far as, if you're trending and lean or gearing up for training camp, like those are things you want to file away because Savion Jones, Q Robinson, RJ Harvey are making the biggest noise, and Pat Bryant in there as well, but like they're making large noise, early on.
Q Robinson had a pretty good day today.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it too is you're hearing a lot of buzz, and it isn't just Bryant, but you're hearing a lot of buzz, the same buzz we heard this last year of Devon Vele. You're hearing the same buzz with Vele that we heard last year. You're hearing I actually heard that Jaleel McLaughlin is actually having a pretty solid practice, if you will, from OTAs to minicamp. So maybe that's even something to kind of file away there. Riley Moss has even looked really good. Like Riley Moss is having a rather solid camp and practice. And I think just the unfortunate thing there is we're not talking about pads either. So everything that you talked about there is, it's almost like a glorified, what I have with Mario, right? Which is like those pickup football things, like which is 7-on-7, which is no pads, almost like walkthroughs every practice and everything. Like it's just it's kind of like one of those things. So it's really hard to have maybe a strong takeaway. But again, like if you're having a consistent theme of players that are showing up from OTAs, rookie minicamp to mandatory minicamp, it's a big deal.
I think OTAs, the way I look at it, is it's voluntary. It's kind of like I look at it like this. It's kind of like a marathon person who wants to run a marathon. You train a little bit. You kind of stretch out. You exercise. You don't do the real hard things like in football. You don't, like you said, you don't put the pads on. You take. I guess I want to say that take like baby steps. I know that sounds weird, but take little steps as you get into the rookie camps, you get into the mandatory training, you get into the preseason, then you get into regular season. They're all little steps. And I think when I look at OTAs is, they're not in pads. They're still running routes. They're still doing the things that they have to do to, work their way up. But when it comes to rookies, I mean, these guys are learning a whole new system, completely different than college for the most part. And they're learning something with, under Sean Payton, under these different coaches. And I think I like the OTAs. I don't look at them as, okay, they had a great OTA. They did not have so much. I look at that as progression. Now, once you start getting into the mandatory and then you start getting the preseason and you see the same pattern, is it a good pattern? Is it a bad pattern? That's the thing I look at.
We just talked about Estime, right? And there's been some buzz that there's been some fumbling issues again, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's a trend that continues into training camp, now that's something you would be worried about. Like if the habits are starting to come up when the pads turn on, that's something you might want to file away a little bit more than something without the pads on. Now, I will say, like, as far as some of the stuff that, and this kind of applies to rookies and, everything like this, but like when you hear, stuff from, the coaching staff, but when you hear stuff like the instincts, that the IQ, the high intelligence of who they are as a player, I think that matters the most when you think about OTAs, minicamp, and everything else, because you aren't really having padded practice, right? Like we just said that. So if you are picking things up at a rather rapid pace, right, like a rapid pace with guys like Barron, because that's been the thing with Barron, right? Sean even talked about that today. Like he said that Barron is he's instinctual, he's smart, he's picking things up. You're starting to hear a little bit of the same things about RJ Harvey as well. Like, like he's really smart, he's instinctual, he's really picking things up really fast. Like that same type of commentary being said for some of these guys, that bodes well more for you going into training camp because of the installation that is being done from OTAs and training camp, minicamp, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about the additions the Broncos have made. We've talked about kind of expectations for what the running back room might look like. OTAs, minicamps. Obviously, the big stuff isn't going to come out until training camp, and that's not until July. Good Lord, there's going to be absolutely nothing to do. But we do have some players that were just released that at least have been in conversation about, well, maybe the Broncos should sign him. And I know we, in the group chat, we talked about it because I will bring up everybody under the sun. Like, should we get him? Let's go get him.
Absolutely. Mike is for anybody that doesn't know, like Mike is the epitome of like, the famous meme that rolls around on Twitter, with Squidward pointing and saying Bronco, or like, Sean Payton and pointing Bronco. He is that guy.
If it's a name I recognize, get him. He's a Bronco. Go get him. Number one being Jair Alexander from the Packers got released. And as soon as I saw the name, I texted in the group chat, hey, we should go get him.
Not exactly in those words.
Think about that cornerback room, right? And Cam is like, no, we don't need him. It's like, hey, Rich get richer. Right? Doesn't matter if we need him. We got the money. Go get him. Who cares? Like you got Barron, you got Surtain, you've got Moss, you've got Alexander. Come on now. They're not even going to be able to complete a pass.
How would you structure the quarterback room with Jair?
Who cares? Guarantee it all up front. Done.
All cornerbacks, no linebackers. I can see it right now.
Right? Just have your linebackers be corners.
You need to stop playing Madden Ultimate Team, all right?
I will. You just go in there and find Tyler Bidet, and I've got him jacked up to 100 on everything. Come get me, sir.
No wonder you go undefeated, Mike.
I don't know what you're talking about. I only do that when I play my boys. You know how hard it is to play Madden against two teenagers?
Yeah,
and
I
football
know.
players too.
I play against my 13-year-old grandson.
In Madden, a screen is like impossible to stop. I've tried. You just can't. I've tried. I'm on like rookie. They're on all Madden, and they're just screen. Like, come on!
And you're so confident playing on rookie. Like, yeah, I beat this team 100-0.
I've traded like Ray Lewis onto my team. I've got Champ Bailey on my team. Like, come on!
Gosh.
John Lynch is back there in safety, and I can't stop a screen.
Hey, why don't you have Steve Atwater? Come on, that guy stopped everybody. Just asking.
I had everybody. I'd probably hang 70 on Mike and Madden. Shut up, Gage. You're like 22. It also depends on how much weed you smoked that day. Then we'll talk.
Wow.
Just playing Madden, he's like, screen. Yeah.
We're going to do halfback screen, jailbreak screen. Like,
I threw a pick.
Wide receiver
Where's
screen.
my Oreo?
But, but
Jair Alexander.
Yeah. I think Jair Alexander, I just don't understand it. Like, you already added Barron. There's Chris Abrams-Drain in the building. Really, if you're looking at, maybe the player that it, affects the most, if you will, just overall with the room, would be Damari Mathis. I mean, heck, maybe he's already looking at maybe he's already looking at a post-NFL career because apparently he started a rap album. So maybe he's already kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
As long as it's better than Antonio Brown's, he should be fine.
Or who was the other one? Darren Waller. Darren Waller was another one.
Darren Waller did one. There was one recently that just did one too. No, that was somebody else. Never mind.
But there's just now. The adage is true. You can never have too many corners. But the other part of this too is with Jair Alexander is he wants a contract. He wants to be paid handsomely like a cornerback one, which is something that maybe the Packers, maybe not wanting to give him all that money. So like Jair wants almost like cornerback one money. So
that was the one, Kadarius Toney.
Well, we know he dropped the ball there.
All right, so the other one, and this one I'm actually more excited about.
Good, because you should be.
But again, like richest owners in the NFL, they should just sign him just so they can be like, why not? Why'd you sign Alexander? Got released from the Bengals linebacker Jermaine Pratt. This one is interesting because he would be a Singleton replacement.
He would.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had a Pratt and Greenlaw linebacker core, dude, how do we not have the best inside linebacker core in the NFL?
I don't know if I would go that far, but I will say I will say I think that is legitimately a scenario where we cook up different scenarios a little bit, but it makes total sense, right, Bill? Like to go from hey, let's just do a simple cut, replace, moving on, and bring in Jermaine Pratt, it makes sense, but it is one of those scenarios where it's just not going to happen.
But I like an Alex Singleton. I really like his play. I do a lot.
it's not necessarily even a matter of liking or disliking Alex Singleton. It's just I don't want to speak for Mike. It's just like you look at the body of work of Pratt and you look at the body of work of Singleton, and statistically,
Sure,
like everything that Pratt has, he clears everything for Singleton, even health wise. So, but yeah, it is one of those things where it's not going to happen though.
I was going to say, is it even remotely possible that happens?
No.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
What's
the barrier that keeps that from happening?
You have to cut Alex Singleton first.
well, given everything you just said, why wouldn't that be something not negotiable, but something on the table that the owners look at and general manager looks at, and Sean Payton does as well?
It's still, because everything we're talking about, it's a Singleton replacement, and so if you're in order to replace a player, you'd have to cut said player, and and that would have to be Singleton. And granted, he does have 1 year left on his deal. You could probably easily get out of that, but I think the other part of it too is you also have to talk about probably the reason why you are high on Singleton, Bill, and that's just it feels like he's well respected in the room. He's a locker room guy. He adds value to the room. But to that same point, I feel like you could also be replacing Pratt with that captaincy, that leadership, everything, to the room. So as much as you're losing Singleton's leadership, you're gaining another one in Pratt. But also, again, like I just don't see it happening. I think it's going to be one where he signs with Indianapolis, because that's where his old defensive coordinator, I believe, went. So I think Indianapolis is kind of like the team that is looking at, and that is just simply a guess on my front.
Well,
and the other thing, I was going to say, the other thing too is with Singleton, he knows the Broncos, he knows the defense, he knows the team. Whereas Pratt coming in doesn't. It would take a while for him to adapt. Maybe not as much, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel bad if we were to get rid of Singleton. I really would.
So to kind of pick on your words a little bit, why did Greenlaw sign? He didn't know the.
True. But I'll tell you what, that's a solid signing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to see him.
You shut your mouth, Rich.
And you know what? That would be one where if you want to replace Robert Spillane, that's a move.
We're not going to talk about that anymore.
That is a move.
Is that something that could happen?
Of course, the Raiders suck.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, of course, the Raiders suck. They need all that.
Listen, this is going to be the one time you hear this, unless you're Captain Jack. I'm at least going to give the Raiders their due, right? Like, I still think the Raiders are going to be fourth in the AFC West, but they come away with a winning record.
Fourth?
Yeah.
So who's first, Mike?
Like 9-8, you mean? So you're saying
first, Kansas City?
Broncos.
Oh.
Broncos
Chargers.
First?
Chiefs. Raiders. Broncos will have 13. Chargers will have 11. Chiefs will have 10. Raiders will have 9.
I need to call somebody to have Mike's mind checked out.
Yeah. Mario has gone 17-0, and you wanted me called in?
Yeah, but 17-0, that's just what he does every year.
We're 17-0 until we ain't.
Well, what Cam, just off the cuff, what do you think the Broncos will be? I'll say the Broncos will be second.
What's 12-5? That's at least the record I went with initially, and that might change.
11-5. No, I'm not talking about record. I'm talking about position. I say Kansas City, Denver, Chargers, and Raiders.
I think it's a tie between the Chiefs and the Raiders, or sorry, the Chiefs and the Broncos for 12-5.
Okay.
10 wins. That's all they're getting, and that's up from where I had them. I had them at 9.
Now. But here's the prediction that's not a Broncos related, but it's an NFL one. the Steelers and Mike Tomlin's winning streak, it ends
It's over.
this year.
It's
It is.
over.
That's where I was gonna go. Was like,
It's
hey,
over.
guess who finally signed with the Steelers? Aaron Rodgers. And I'm gonna be honest with you. As much as Gage was talking up Aaron Rodgers, because I guess him and Aaron Rodgers go and smoke some marijuana or whatever.
I like the Rodgers idea with
Aaron Rodgers at this point in time is a jag. He's just another guy.
Well, we'll see.
Whoa.
But like,
He's 42, and he did not play well last year.
I just have this sign or this sense that I just think that for the first time in nearly 500 years, Tomlin will have a losing season.
So can Peyton Manning, but it doesn't mean that it would be any good right now.
And actually, Peyton's was worse because like Peyton had like neck surgery and
3 of them.
yeah.
Rodgers is taking the Tom Brady arc, right? Like
I'm not going to
ride
take all
high,
my.
and then you can kind of start seeing the fall off. Rodgers just doesn't want to let it go.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Rodgers, I'm not going to take a whole lot of what I want to talk about on Friday regarding Rodgers. But did you see he had a wedding ring on his finger, and he admits to being married a couple months ago? Did not reveal that. Does not want to say who it is.
He probably found her in the Amazon or something, and and they kindled something
Make
and
payments monthly on Zoom, not Zoom, but on whatever the thing.
He found her at the spa in the backwoods where he was getting his natural enema on.
Yeah, he found her in the Amazon, down there.
Oh my gosh.
In South America, and while in his wilderness retreat, and he had this vision, and all of a sudden he saw this girl, and it was like an episode of King of the Hill.
Here's the thing that gets me. I was reading a thing a little earlier before Mike said, "You got 4 minutes to get on the show." About Aaron Rodgers.
Make it.
I know. But Aaron Rodgers dating Danica Patrick, the race car driver,
for like 2 months.
Long time ago.
And she was saying that it was turmoil, it was chaotic. I cannot picture in my head going from that and the other people that he's been with. I mean, that a marriage would work with him.
Yeah, well,
I mean, he was married to or dating Shailene Woodley, and
really
they were engaged.
That really didn't become a thing. So
nope.
I don't know. It's just it ain't gonna work. He's. I was just gonna say he's just a prima donna. He's a diva. He wants a spotlight. He wants this, that, and everything. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh fans out there, if you're watching.
No, I will say that
Tomlin's going to have a losing season.
And this is the part that annoyed me the most: is this entire offseason where he's not saying anything. He's like, "Why is everybody still talking about me?" Make up your mind, you moron. Why do you think?
You haven't made up your mind yet. But I will say this, as far as Pittsburgh is concerned, there have been far worse characters that Tomlin has dealt with and more.
But not at the quarterback most important position.
He has. Ben Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger was
really?
Roethlisberger was a character. Yeah. Maybe not to Rodgers' level, but he was a character.
All right.
But yeah,
Rodgers is a diva. Roethlisberger was a troublemaker.
Like on one team, Mike Tomlin dealt with Antonio Brown, Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, James Harrison, I think for 1 point. Like, he dealt with multiple different personalities. So yeah, he's dealt with it before. So if it works out, and clearly Russell Wilson, by the way, and also he had Russell Wilson.
I forgot about him.
But so he can make it work. And they also had a winning record when Russell Wilson and Justin Fields weren't even on that team which was led by Mason Rudolph. So it can certainly be done.
All right, so let me ask you this. Regardless of how Rodgers or anybody else in that quarterback room performs, is the winning record that Tomlin has due strictly to himself and his coaching staff, regardless who the quarterback is, regardless of the running back? Okay.
No,
So it's a coaching staff.
I think it's the more you see it as the years unfold, it's an impressive coaching job.
So here's the thing with Tomlin, right? Tomlin is a good enough coach to win the division. He's a good enough coach to constantly have a winning record, but I don't think he's a good enough coach to win a Super Bowl.
And what keeps him out of that?
His room. There's that's where you do get into it, where it would be the room. But no, Mike Tomlin is like, he's the one like coach where he can.
Fox.
Mike Tomlin is the one coach. Yeah. Mike Tomlin is the one coach where he can make poop edible. Like, it actually tastes good when you eat it.
I don't think that's a thing. I mean, we could probably ask Aaron Rodgers. He's probably done it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, the light brown ones taste better than the green ones. Shut up, Aaron.
See, you just brought something in, Cam, which I absolutely love, which is those little caramel things wrapped in chocolate with little nuts. What are those things called?
Well, now I can't eat caramel things.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about? They're wrapped in aluminum foil.
Ding dongs?
No, not ding dongs.
No, we're not doing that.
They're about this long.
You can make chicken salad out of chicken. He's probably ate both.
What is that? But anyways, those things are amazing. It's gonna be hard to eat those
ding dongs. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to eat ding dongs.
Ding dongs didn't go in my mouth that night.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay. I didn't swerve this one. This one wasn't me. All right. Okay, let's everybody just keep ding dongs out of your mouth and let's move on to something else. Okay. Bill, what was that candy you were describing? Describe that candy again. What was it?
About that long. About something like that. And it has chocolate around the outside. And it has nuts on top. And it's wrapped in aluminum foil. What is it called?
Is it like Ferrero Rocher or something like that?
No, that's a round one. This is long. Well, not that long. It's only about maybe 3 inches.
Hey, that's average for a lot of people, okay?
I'm talking about a candy. I ain't talking about nothing else. I'm talking about a freaking candy.
Yeah,
I'll look it up. What is it? I'm going to look it up. Would you stop?
We're moving on. So,
it's like an episode of The Neighborhood right now.
It really is. Bill,
candy.
went to an adult shop. I'll take you to the candy shop. Sure. I'll let you lick the lollipop. All right. So one thing that we did not end up covering on the last 5280 is
which was like 1 month ago.
Right. It was a while ago. We have a new player that is joining the Ring of Fame. Demaryius Thomas is officially going to be inducted into.
Oh, I got it. It's called Almond Roca. That's what it's called. Right there.
All right. So Demaryius Thomas is joining the Ring of Fame.
Sorry.
Without his chocolate-covered candy.
Well, you are live.
I just wanted
Demaryius Thomas is joining the Ring of Fame, and I did want to get your guys' thoughts on if it should have happened earlier, if it shouldn't have happened. Is it going to be a Hall of Fame type thing? What do you guys feel about Demaryius Thomas joining the Ring of Fame?
I don't want to speak for everybody in the room, but obviously I'm a huge Demaryius Thomas fan. He's my favorite wide receiver in Broncos history. I'm very biased to say that I think he's the best wide receiver in Broncos history, even though I really love Rod Smith. And I grew up in the Rod Smith era, as far as being born in '87. But like he was just a great wide receiver. So
Bill was like 94 and 87.
I was like, dang, kid, you're born in '87.
But no, he's
I've got socks older than you.
He was a great wide receiver, man. And it's part of me's sad because he didn't get a chance to hit his 10,000 receiving yards, with solely the Denver Broncos. And so that kind of hurts, but he is undoubtedly a Ring of Famer. It is very deserving. And I will actually be at that game where they will be honoring him and the Super Bowl 50 team. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I think we even talked about it on our last show that we did for mainly last week, and I want to ask you guys the question: what was your fondest memory of Demaryius Thomas that was not the one that everybody else is probably their favorite, which was the Tim Tebow play to Demaryius against the Pittsburgh Steelers? What was your favorite memory of Demaryius Thomas?
Wow.
Oh, I got one.
Now you took me off the board, but go ahead.
And it's kind of cool because I just saw a clip of it the other day, but it was the Broncos and the Seahawks, not in the Super Bowl. This was like 2012, 2013, 2014. I don't remember what year, but it was the Broncos and the Seahawks, and the Broncos were trailing. They had to get a touchdown in the last 40 seconds. Peyton Manning ends up throwing it to the very back of the end zone to Demaryius Thomas, catches the touchdown, and then Broncos end up converting the 2-point conversion to tie it to go into overtime. That was probably one of my favorite catches of Demaryius. Was that it looked like a Cortland Sutton catch, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't think it's going to happen. He's triple covered, but the ball sneaks through. He catches it with his toes that far from the white line. It was incredible.
Mine, now that I think about it, mine would have to be on the year that Peyton Manning set the NFL record for touchdowns. Demaryius Thomas's catches in those games may not have been touchdown, but they were chain-moving catches that propelled. And then he caught, now correct me if I'm wrong, I thought and I believe he caught Peyton Manning's 50th or 49th touchdown pass that year. That
509.
What's that?
Right? Was it the 509?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That was that to me, outside of the Tim Tebow one in overtime, that has to be memorable because it not only showed me that Peyton Manning trusted Demaryius Thomas, but that Demaryius Thomas was that guy. I mean, he was all world. It was such a sad time, but to Cam's original or the topic of him being in the Ring of Fame, I not only think he deserves to be in the Ring of Fame, I'm very glad his mom's going to be there.
Yeah.
Sad that he won't be, obviously, but glad his mom will be, that she can pull off that curtain, whatever it is, on his bust to reveal that he is now officially in the Ring of Fame. In my opinion, DT needs to be in the Football Hall of Fame.
We'll see.
Now tell me that there's a different nickname for a wide receiver duo than Black and Decker. Come on. You can't get a better wide receiver duo nickname than Black and Decker. I'm just saying.
But, that stretch of years with Manning, everybody talks about Julio Jones. Everybody talks about Antonio Brown, but those years, there was no player, probably of those two, if you attach the three, but there was no player that was more dominant at his position and the stretch of games through 4 or 5 years than Demaryius Thomas. He was absolutely dominant. And I think for me, when I look at game, and obviously there's just so many for me to name. I think the last show I said that my memory was his Super Bowl 48, where he was literally one of the only ones that was competing from start to finish and breaking the Super Bowl receptions record. Just a few other ones that are just kind of off the cuff that I remember was him actually torching Darius Slay on a 4th and 1 where I think it was, and I think the backstory of that was Slay was shooting his mouth off the week before, or during that week, about how Manning was throwing a wounded duck and and everything like this.
Best viewers on boostorbit.ru. Throw that out there.
So that is certainly one. It was a 4th and 1, and and then so obviously, what was it? The one against the Kansas City Chiefs where he caught it in the back of the end zone one-handed. Basically, you want to talk about a Cortland Sutton type of catch. That was one. I think my favorite game, though, I will say this: my favorite game of Demaryius Thomas was when he took Antonio Cromartie and Patrick Peterson, a prime Patrick Peterson and Cromartie to school in that Arizona Cardinals game, and took him to the woodshed. Like he had over 200 yards receiving. That was about as dominant a wide receiver game that, no one will talk about. And so, I don't know. I love DT. There's a reason I have two of his pictures over in my apartment. I love him for a reason. If Pat Bowlen, was alive to get a chance to see it, he would be happy and smile, knowing the fact that Demaryius Thomas was wearing orange and blue. So I will love Demaryius to death.
Ken, let me ask you this. Terrell Davis only played 5 good, solid seasons in the NFL. 7 total, but 5 good, solid seasons before he blew out his knee. DT played how many seasons? 5?
Or if we're talking with Broncos, are we talking with just overall?
DT.
He was drafted in 2010.
2010.
He was drafted the same year. He was drafted the same year as Tebow.
Okay. So my question is this: If TD is in the Hall of Fame for what he accomplished with those few years, shouldn't what do you mean, no, Mike?
It's not the same, right?
How is it not the same?
No. I understand where you're coming from, right? But Demaryius Thomas is one of the best wide receivers in Broncos history. Terrell Davis is the best playoff running back ever.
Sure.
In the entire league.
But the accomplishments that Thomas made.
But I know, but what I'm saying is he made those accomplishments for the Broncos team, right? NFL wide, I don't know if he would have enough to get into the Hall of Fame. Whereas Terrell Davis is one of
MVP of
7 running backs ever run
league.
for 2,000 yards, Super Bowl MVP, best playoff running back of all time. So you can't compare what DT did with the Broncos to what TD did, because the two.
Now I will say, I think he's the argument, and everybody's going to hate me of this, but it's a different position. But the argument would be, and it's a better one, if you will, but would be Rob Gronkowski. If you're going to compare Terrell Davis and everything, Rob Gronkowski would be the one, because he had such a short year, but yet he was well regarded as the best tight end of his position. Mm-hmm. And so he is probably a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt.
Even that, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right. But I think
that's because of the Patriots, guys.
You almost have to make the argument of DT is like an Eli Manning, right? And I'm not saying skill wise. I'm saying when you look at a player to go into the Hall of Fame, DT is like an Eli Manning. Should Eli Manning go in? There's a case for both sides. Same thing with DT. Should he go in? There's a case for both sides, but they're kind of on that verge of will they make it or not.
You also have to factor in, who is going to be up for, who's going to be up for, said Hall of Fame enshrinement, right? Because it's all dependent upon list. Apparently, the year that I thought Luke Kuechly was going to go in, he didn't go in. So I think it all just is kind of dependent upon, obviously, how you sway the voters and all of that. So I think that just overall, though, we'll certainly see how it does. I will say, though, for as much as I love Demaryius Thomas, Rod Smith deserves to get in first,
absolutely.
And then we can start to have this conversation about Demaryius Thomas.
How in heaven's name is Rod Smith not even in there now? I don't get it. No. I don't understand the logic of the Hall of Fame committee. I don't understand what to look at. I mean, it took Terrell Davis forever to get in there, and he had records and accomplishments that nobody's ever done before. I mean, you're looking at who's that running back for the Bears that was in years ago? Walter Payton never went to the Super Bowl, Never had 2,000-yard rushing. Never this, never that. Terrell Davis blew the doors off.
What do
of
you
that,
mean
and
never
yet
went
it
to the
took
Super
him
Bowl?
No, I'm talking about Gale Sayers.
Okay, I thought you meant
Gale
Walter
Sayers.
Payton. I was like,
No, I
wait,
meant
85
Gale
Bears.
Sayers. No, Gale Sayers.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how in
I think
heaven's
he had
name is he
5
in the
years.
Hall of Fame, and yet Terrell Davis took forever to get there? I don't understand the mindset of the committee now.
It's just it's a mindset, and it's one that hopefully they can be able to be changed, and hopefully the trend of Pat Bowlen getting in, which he should have gone in before Jerry Jones. It's a topic for another day. But obviously Terrell Davis getting in, Randy Gradishar finally getting in.
Yep.
I think hopefully we start to kind of see a bit of a trend in the Broncos direction for some players that noteworthy should get in, guys like Carl Mecklenburg, Rod Smith.
Let me throw this out.
We start winning again. More Broncos players are going to get in.
Well, let me throw this out real quick. Okay, let me throw this out to you guys real quick. Are the Broncos snubbed by the NFL / Hall of Fame committee because they're not in a popular city or popular a viewing thing? Because it seems like the Orange Crush guys of the 70s and 80s that accomplished a lot. Yes, they did. Sure, they did not win Super Bowls. But what is it?
It's the same thing as like fans voting for the Pro Bowl, right? Like it's all about name recognition. And the Broncos, and honestly, like some of the best players in Broncos history don't have the same recognition as other guys that were on like the Steel Curtain or
because they're more in
they're
more on TV. They're more on TV.
Right,
they're more
but not than Minnesota. Minnesota is just as small as Denver.
The other
saying like or Green Bay, right? Like people like guys that were part of the Packers in the 60s, even though Green Bay is smaller than Denver, they have more name recognition. It's the same thing with the Broncos in the Hall of Fame. Like we could have these guys that were incredible in the 70s, but they're going to be overshadowed by Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s or the Cowboys in the 70s. You know what I mean?
We're not in the room, but I hate to put blame on, someone when we're not in that room. But maybe the other part of it too is like their pitch is terrible. Because that's the other part of it. Because that's the other part of this too is like, when you look at just the idea for people going into the Hall of Fame is like they have to pitch, right? Like they have to pitch the idea of said player, going into the Hall of Fame. So again, I don't mean to, bash like a beat writer or, someone that is making the case for, Bronco to get in, but maybe they just made really bad pitches. That the committee just doesn't listen to.
And they might need to just change the way they vote, right? Like I've always maintained that for Pro Bowl voting, they should not put the name of the players, just put the stats.
Yep.
Let them pick by stats.
Yep.
So then let me, because may not have been a conversation that we've had, but obviously this was one where I'd be curious with Bill being, since he's been a fan since the 20s. But
the 1820s.
Yeah, the 1820s. But there's been so much. There's been so much.
George Washington's inauguration.
Yeah. But there's been so much to be made about.
George! Woo!
There's been so much to be made about retired numbers, right? How do you feel about retired numbers? Should players wear 24, 30, maybe even 7? Should players
not 24, Champ Bailey, not 30, Terrell Davis, and not 7, John Elway, not 18, Peyton Manning, and not 44, Floyd Little.
Floyd Flittle?
Floyd Flittle.
And this kind of goes back to the Aaron Rodgers thing with the Steelers, right? Like the Steelers will not allow Aaron Rodgers to wear 12. Now, Terry Bradshaw's number is not retired, but there are certain numbers that they just will not hand out. And I think that could be the same thing for the Broncos. I understand the argument against retiring numbers because once it's retired, can't use it. But I also understand not handing out that number. Like if someone comes in and is like, hey, I want to wear 30. No, we're not handing that number out. It's not retired, but you can't have it. 84.
Well, it's the same.
It's not retired, but you can't have it.
the same space. But here's my thought. Well, you got 53 active guys. I know you got more players than on the practice squad and all that. But you mean to tell me the Broncos are really going to retire 53 numbers? I don't see that.
But I will
That's
say
how long the NFL's around for. But then you have to start making the argument, right? Like you retire 7, you retire 18. Now you're going to retire 30. Now you're going to retire
24.
Floyd Little.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to retire Floyd Little's number. You're going to retire Steve Atwater's number.
Okay.
Well, now you got to do Champ Bailey's number.
Okay.
Well, Rod Smith meant a lot, so now you got to take 80 out of there. Well,
Maybe
DT meant a
DT.
lot, so now you got to take 88 out.
Yeah.
Well, but you also have John Lynch. He's a Hall of Famer. There goes 47.
Okay. Well, here's my point, Mike.
Now you have this number. Well, hold on. You got to take 58 out for Von Miller now. Well, and DeMarcus Ware, there's 94. You got to get rid of that one. Well, there's like 20 numbers gone.
Okay, that's fine. But you didn't name number 1. You didn't name 0. You didn't name 2, which is PS2.
Well, you could.
You didn't name 3. Heaven forbid we won't retire 3.
Retire Elam's number.
You got 4. No, you don't retire Jason Elam.
Why not?
I mean, even though he kicked a
kicker in Broncos history.
Yes, but
so where's the cutoff? Where's the cutoff?
At number 3.
Because if you go by Broncos players that made the Hall of Fame, well, now you're in trouble. Right?
No, you're not in trouble because it's not 53 guys in the Hall of Fame. You only have a handful of the Broncos players in the Hall of Fame.
I'm not saying like Broncos players that only played on the Broncos. I'm saying any player that has played on the Broncos that is in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to retire
no.
All numbers are gone.
No.
So
only Broncos players.
Right, but so what is the cutoff?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to
when
play
you get to 53.
Well,
you've got Mike. You've got 0 to 99 numbers to retire. You only have 53 guys on a squad.
So let's say that in 30 years we have 53 numbers retired.
I'll be gone in 30 years. I don't care.
But now you've got players. You've got a quarterback that can only wear number 54 to 99.
50.
Right? Like you can't do that. So what are the boundaries for retiring a jersey?
Why not? The NFL opened up the number system that any player can take any number they want. So now you got 0 out there. Who's 0? Wait a minute, hang on. Who's 0 for the Broncos? That's
no one's 0.
There was.
Last year was 0.
Cooper, yeah.
Cooper. So see, you can have 0.
I can see the Broncos having 4 numbers retired.
Yep.
7, 18,
4,
30.
They don't have 30 and 44.
And 84.
They don't have 44.
I said 84.
But 7's already retired. 18's already retired.
2's on a trajectory too.
44's already retired. So now you have, what are the numbers you're talking about? 30? Terrell Davis, not
30,
retired.
84.
Not retired.
But that's what I'm saying. There should be like 5 or 6 numbers, and that's about it. We're done. That's
it?
That's it.
So what I would do, and this is a bit of a different twist in terms of even respecting the number, and maybe it's just like the college football stuff in me, but it's just like I would have, if said player wants to wear the retired player's number, like for instance, like let's just hypothetically say 24 is available, and
Peyton Manning did that with Trapuka.
But like let's just say 24 is available. Right. And, and it is retired. Let's just say RJ Harvey, got 24, but it has to come at a cost. I don't mean money cost, but like it has to come with, he earned that number. He earned that number from the coach, and he earned that number from blessing of family / player. And I think that at that point, that would be well worth it in the sense of like, but it has to go through that process every single time. And then actually with that also has to come performance. So he doesn't actually just be gifted the idea of like, okay, he wants 24. He also has to earn the right to wear number 24. So after practices are over, after training camp is over, after preseasons are over, that's when we can start to have the conversation of, hey, RJ, you put all that work in. You said you wanted number 24. We have the good word from the Bailey family, from Champ himself, that you can be able to wear number 24. I think that's kind of like how I would do it in a sense. So like if, but I do think that there's a certain cutoff though of certain numbers.
Okay,
where.
So let me ask you this real quick. Peyton Manning requested to wear number 18 from Frank Tripucka, and he granted, saying, yes, you deserve to wear 18. I don't have a problem with said person wanting 24. I just think 24 should be reserved for a corner, not a running back. Number 30 was given by Terrell Davis to Philip Lindsay, running back. I think that
didn't work out.
Stay.
Decker was the same way.
But I think the number should stick with what that position that player played.
But you're pigeonholing yourself.
Okay.
Jersey retirements are at a higher level than the Hall of Fame, right? Like, it's easier to get into the Hall of Fame than it is to get your jersey retired. Because think about how many teams have how many jerseys retired, right? Like, how many Hall of Famers do the Giants have? How many Hall of Famers do the Steelers have? Here, well, we'll go Steelers. How many Hall of Famers do the Steelers have? But how many jerseys are retired?
Right.
True.
Like 3.
Right.
Okay. I mean, Terrell Davis' jersey is not retired. Should be.
I think it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think there's like a limited number, like 4, 5.
Shannon Sharp's number should be retired. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Should it?
Oh, come on. Are you serious? I think if you make it to the Hall of Fame, your number needs to be retired. You're that great. There's nothing higher than the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there is. Jersey being retired.
Or frankly, you could even argue to whatever I just said, like, or having a player worthy enough, because he's proved himself worthy enough to wear that said number.
Right? Like when you look at 18 with the Broncos, right?
Hmm?
Do you think anybody else would have talked him about letting 18 go other than Peyton Manning?
Well,
because like when you talk about Peyton Manning coming to Denver, we already knew he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Right. We already knew he was the second best quarterback of all time, right?
Behind
Brady. I mean, you gotta give Brady his due. Not that I want to.
It's a bunny trail.
I love Peyton Manning. I'm just saying, second best quarterback of all time. No, barely makes the top 10. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to retiring a jersey, it's Hall of Fame's here, retiring your jerseys like up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't come with any benefits, but it's big.
Aside from the fact.
Oh yeah, they give you your jersey and it's in a big frame.
I'll take a monthly stipend other than a jersey.
Okay.
Like, thanks for my jersey in a frame, but I'll take $100 a month.
But yeah, it's a fun conversation, and it's just kind of curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, well, you sure sparked a lot of emotion there, Cam.
I know.
Well, and I already know I'm going to get a phone call from Bill right as soon as we're done. Like, what do you mean, John Elway? I already know it's going to happen, and I'm going to have to explain myself.
No, I promise I won't.
Even though we've already had this conversation like 6 times.
I'll bring it up just to piss him off. I promise I won't call you.
You can, but I'm handing the phone to my wife.
Maybe.
You'll be like, who's John Elway?
I've never talked to her, so I have no idea.
That's probably a good thing.
For what, right. Me or her?
Both. Anything else we need to cover? I think we got it. I want to kind of save some stuff for
next week.
No, not next week. Like any sort of update, because I'm going to be straight. Like, until training camp happens, I don't know if we're going to have an episode. It all depends on if something's happening. Like, if nothing happens,
I'll be having Friday
The only thing we could do is, like, jump on here on Tuesday and be like, hey, welcome to the show, goodbye, and then leave. Like, that's all we got.
Kind of like your April Fool's Day, huh?
That was funny.
I will say that would be perfect. Like in the sense, like, you know,
that was funny.
What we should do is like going forward. Like if we do this, like I will say that if we do schedule a show, it'd be so funny to do it where we don't tell people we're doing a show. Like if it's like a span of a couple weeks.
I'll show you a mandingus, sir.
You know, and so what we would do is we would just like, okay, we're gonna do we don't tell anybody, but we're gonna do a show on that Tuesday, and then we create it at like, because like YouTube has got that algorithm where it shows up on the, you know, on the thing, right, like at a certain time with what you created for an event. So like we create it right then and there, and we go live, and so that
that's what we're going to do. We're going to schedule it. We're going to go live. The intro's going to play, and then it'll just be me popping up on camera going, nothing happened, and then hit end.
Wow.
But no, that's like the other twist of it too, is like we still do a show, but like we don't tell anybody. We like schedule the event like 5 minutes before we go live, and automatically we click and go live to surprise everybody.
Sounds like a plan.
That would be a surprise.
I'm sure that we will have some episodes between now and training camp. We'll come up with something to talk about. I just got to tell you, like, honestly, we've been doing this show for 5 years, and I'm running on empty up here.
Don't even say you're going to shut it down, dude. Don't even go there. I'm not
shutting it down. I'm just saying, like, it's been 5 years of every week we're doing a show.
Put some ding-dongs in your ear.
No, I'm not Bill. I might put him in my ear, but Bill's going to put him in his butt.
I was going to say, doesn't ear rhyme with rear?
Like at this point, man, if the stuff that comes out of your rear comes out of your ear, you need to go to the doctor.
Cam, I'm very sorry he asked me to be on. I'm sorry.
I'm sure. I asked Cam. Yes. Like, absolutely.
Oh, shoot.
But yeah, again, like we will. If we can come up with some ideas for shows, we'll pop in and have a show.
I mean,
I'm not going to sit here and guarantee because I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, hey,
Gage could be too high to do anything again. Glenn could be having flare-ups of hemorrhoids again. I don't know what the problem is.
We could do a simple 5-minute show of Mike just doing the truffle shuffle, and then end the stream.
Truffle shuffle.
The truffle. What in the heaven's name is a truffle shuffle?
Please tell me you've seen The Goonies.
Huh?
The Goonies, the movie, The Goonies.
I ain't seen no movie.
Seriously, you've never seen The Goonies?
No, I've never seen The Goonies. Never even heard of it.
Sean Astin.
Show's over. We're not doing this anymore. Bill's never even seen The Goonies. We're done. That's why you and my wife will never talk. She loves The Goonies. No, we're not. No, we're done.
I'm sorry.
We want to thank everybody for joining us in the show. Make sure you go to the network and check out all the other shows. We got shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the neighborhood on Broncos game days. Don't ever take your hat off again. Too much shine in the camera. Ouch. All right. Make sure you check out all the shows on the network. It's a fun time. It's very, very simple to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes about 1/10 of a second, and we would greatly appreciate it, especially those thumbs up. Also on our YouTube page. On our YouTube page, we have a link to the merch shop, which has merch for every single show, so you can support the show.
Except Broncos Buzz.
Support the network. I know. That's because we don't have a show called Broncos Buzz. Now, if I can make a suggestion, make sure you check out the shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then run like hell on Friday, because you don't want to watch that show.
What? Come on, man. You got to watch Friday's show. Friday shows fun.
Friday shows are good.
Wednesday's better.
Well, I'm just, I think we're all represented here, though, right? Like, I got Tuesday's show.
It's true. Every day of the week.
Bill's got Friday. So we're good. Yep. We're covered. There's also the Wild Wild West show that Richie Riche hosts.
See, there you go. See, Buzz Broncos with Kona. There you go.
That's true. Rich hosts the Wild Wild West on Wednesdays. Cam has mainly Broncos on Wednesdays. We also have an Avalanche pod that goes on Thursdays, and then Broncos Buzz on Fridays, and that's with Bill and Kona Spence. And honestly, like the way that we keep getting hosts on this network is incredible. Like Spence just checked into the neighborhood one day and just was chilling out in the chat, and now he's hosting a show with Bill, which I can't say is really a reward. I'm just saying, like he got on the show. So,
it's a punishment. It's a punishment for Spence.
It's a punishment for joining the network.
You know what they say? It is all about who you know.
I suppose. Bill was like, "What do you think we should do with the show?" And I was like, "Spence, you're in timeout.
Spence.
You got to host a show with Bill."
No, Spence.
All right.
Spence
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us in the show. We want to thank everybody for being fans of the Denver Broncos, just like us. We love Broncos country. We love the Denver Broncos. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Fast lane when I pass in the street. Bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down 'cause the coast